Okay, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to SteeringWheels. SteeringWheels is a new feature inside of 3ds Max version 2009. It's a brand new feature that aids you in the manipulation of your camera view to be able to view your scene better depending on the different circumstances and projects that you're working on. So we have a few of these steering wheels that can help us depending on the situation. So let's look at that. So the first time you're going to go ahead and work on the steering wheels when you start up 3ds Max 2009, you're going to notice that there's this kind of grayed out icon down here in the lower left of the interface. And if we hover our mouse over it, this pop-up menu just shows up automatically. And we have two tabs to this pop-up menu, the new to 3D tab, and then the familiar with 3D tab. So let's start off over here at the new to 3D tab. Okay? Now, what are steering wheels? As it says here, steering wheels travel with you to provide quick access to common navigation controls. Basically, it's a little steering wheel, little visual aid that helps you to be able to view your scene and view objects in your scene a lot easier and a lot better. So it's a very neat and good addition inside of 3ds Max 2009. So let's look and see how it works. Okay? Now there's three different steering wheels that we can use. If you click on the new to 3D tab, you'll only have access to two of them, but that's okay. So let's first talk about these two, and then we'll talk about the third one. So the main two steering wheels that we have available to us, we can use the View and Object steering wheel or the Tour a Building steering wheel. So what's the difference between these two? Well, the View and Object steering wheel is best used when you're trying to view objects. Say you have an object sitting on top of a table, or you have a car in a scene, maybe a character, maybe some kind of any type of object that's generally by itself or can be viewed by itself or anything like that is probably best suited to the View and Object wheel or to the object wheel. Okay? The touring wheel or the Tour a Building wheel is a little bit different in the sense that it's best catered to indoor spaces. Say if you're trying to view things that are inside of a room, inside of a building that you've modeled or created, or anything like that, a hallway, any type of closed quarter space is best suited for the Tour a Building wheel. And the other difference between the two is the colors. 3ds Max, in order to let you know that you're using the object wheel, for example, you'll notice that the buttons are in blue. With the Tour a Building wheel, the buttons will appear to be in this yellow-orange color. Okay? So each color differentiates the wheels, helping you better identify them much easier and faster. So let's click on the View and Object wheel and see how it works. So click on that tab, and now you notice that the wheel becomes active. Wherever you move your mouse, the wheel is going to follow. So you don't have to click on anything. Just move the mouse and the wheel follows. Okay? Let's look at the different buttons and what they do in this wheel. We have a center, zoom, rewind, and orbit button. So let's see what the center button does. The way to use the center button is pretty simple. Just align where it says center and the icon with your mouse cursor on top of an object, say for example this corner right here. I'll left click there, and now the tool has placed the center pivot on that corner. So now when I use the orbit tool, for example, the camera is going to orbit around that pivot point, which is represented by a green spherical object. So the pivot point is now located in that corner. Let's say, for example, I want to place the pivot point right here in this corner. Well, it's pretty simple. I'll just place center right here, click there, and there we go. Now I can orbit around that corner of the cube. So it's pretty simple. I can use the zoom tool to go ahead and zoom into that same pivot point. And I can use the rewind tool to go back to previous views. So I can go kind of like going back in time, and I can go back to my original view and just move my mouse as I hold down the left mouse button. I can just move my mouse left and right to go ahead and cycle through the different views that I've gone through so far. So it's a pretty neat little tool there. Okay? Now, how do we turn this tool off? How do we turn off the steering wheel and reactivate it? Well, the shortcut key is Shift and W. So if you hold Shift and hit W on the keyboard, it toggles the little steering wheel off. If you do that again, it toggles the steering wheel back on. So let's look at the second steering wheel. Let's click on this little black arrow icon down here in the lower right to open up the sub menu. Go to Basic Wheels, and instead of View Object Wheel, which is the current one we were using, let's use the Tour Building wheel. So click on that. Now this one has this yellow orange color to let you know that you're using a different wheel. Okay, and we have a few different buttons. We have a forward button, we have a look, rewind, and an up and down button. The up and down is pretty simple to use. All it does is move the camera or the view up or down in elevation. The forward button works a little bit different though. If you click on forward on a point of the object, say the side of the object here, I can zoom into that pivot point by simply moving the mouse forwards and backwards while holding down the left mouse button. So here's my starting point, and then here's the closest that I can zoom into this green little spherical object. So align the forward button with this corner of the cube up here, and now I can zoom in on that specific spot of the model of the cube object. Then we have the look button. If you click and hold the left mouse button, you can look around just like if you were turning your head inside of 3ds Max. So you can look up, you can look down, you can look right or left or anywhere in between. We can even use this tool to move. So if you use the arrow keys on the keyboard, you can use the up arrow key to move forward, you can use the back arrow key to move backwards, the right arrow key moves to the right, and the left arrow key strafes to the left. So it kind of works like a first-person shooter game. It's very similar to it. So it's a very useful tool. So if you have to navigate inside of a hallway of a building or a room or anything like that, the look tool can become very useful. Okay, so that does it for these different buttons and things. Now let's look at the third wheel that wasn't shown in that little menu. So let's click on the black arrow icon, and the third wheel is this one, the full navigation wheel. And this one is in green, just to let you know very quickly that you're using a full navigation steering wheel. And this one basically has all the functionality of the object wheel and the tour building wheel put together. So you don't have to go to the other wheels, you can just use the full navigation wheel, and there you go. So we have the zoom tool available to us. We have the orbit tool available to us. We can also do rewind just like before. We also have the walk tool, which is a different tool. The walk tool works pretty simple. Click and hold the left mouse button, then move your mouse forward to walk forward. Move your mouse backwards to walk backwards. The further you move it back, the faster the speed goes. So you increase speed if you keep moving your mouse forward or backwards, or side to side. So we can move to the sides here, and we can look to the left and right, so to speak. So this works more like a vehicle, almost like if you were riding on an airplane or something like that, and you're looking in a certain direction and the camera's just kind of moving forward and backwards and turning towards the left or the right. So it's pretty simple to use. Then of course we have the center button, which allows you to place the pivot point on the object. Then we have the look tool, again, which works just like before with the tour building look mode, same thing. Then we have the up and down button, which lets you move up and down in elevation, just like before. Of course, we have rewind available to us again. And we have the pan tool, which lets us pan around left, right, up and down. Okay, so that's the full navigation steering wheel. It's very useful because it combines again the functionality of the tour building steering wheel and the view object steering wheel into one steering wheel, which is shown in green. Now let's look at the mini steering wheels. If we click on the arrow icon again to open up the submenu, we get 3 mini modes. We get a mini version of the view object wheel, we get a mini version of the tour building wheel, and we get a mini version of the current wheel, which is the full navigation wheel. So let's look at the mini version of the view object wheel. If you notice, now the icon is very small, and it has 4 wedges. By moving the mouse up or down or left or right, you can activate these different wedges. If I move the mouse up, I activate the zoom wedge, so I can zoom in just like before. If I move to the left, I can orbit just like before. If I move to the right, I activate the rewind wedge, which allows me to rewind just like before. And moving down, of course, is going to activate the pan wedge, which allows me to pan the camera around left, right, up, and down just like before. So what's the point of these mini wheels? Well, the mini wheels are smaller, more compact, and more simple. So they don't take up as much screen space as the larger wheels do. Okay, so let's switch wheels. Now I don't have access to that menu that I had before, so to switch wheels I'm going to have to go to the main menu. So let's go up here to the main menu to views. Let's go to steering wheels, and now let's activate the mini mode for the tour building wheel. And it's the same thing as before. We get 4 wedges. The top wedge activates the walk tool. The left wedge activates the look tool. The bottom wedge activates the up-down tool to move the elevation of the camera like before. And the right wedge activates the rewind tool so you can rewind the views just like before. Let's go back to views, go to steering wheels, and now let's activate the mini mode for the full navigation wheel. Now you notice that the only difference between the other wheels and this one is the fact that this one has twice as many wedges. Instead of having 4 wedges, it has 8. So we can activate the zoom wedge, the center wedge, the orbit wedge, the look wedge, the pan wedge, up and down, rewind, and walk. So we have access to all these tools, all 8 of these functions inside of this one little mini wheel. So it's more compact, yet it still gives you access to all those different tools that otherwise you'd have to access by using the full navigation wheel in the normal size mode, which you can see again has 8 tools, but they're dispersed over a larger icon that takes up more space on the on your viewport. So if you like working with this type of wheel, great. If you prefer to work with the mini wheel, they're there and they're available for you to use and take advantage of. So let's click down here in the lower right to open up this sub menu. And what we can do here is we can activate a few different options. When using the walk mode, we can increase the walk speed by clicking here on increase walk speed. Alternatively, you can decrease the walk speed if it's too fast. We can also go to configure and open up the configuration options for the steering wheels, so we can change the size of the big wheels or the size of the mini wheels to make them larger or smaller, whatever you want. We can also change the opacity. So right now by default the opacity of these wheels is 50%. That means they're 50% transparent. You can drop that opacity down whatever you want or increase it. Maybe you want it to be completely transparent. So it's really up to you. The options are there. And you can change, of course, the speed factor of the walk tool and change a whole bunch of different settings here, like show tooltips when you hover over one of the wheel icons, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to cancel that. Okay. Now the shortcut keys again to activate and deactivate the wheels are Shift and W to toggle it off, and then Shift and W again to toggle it back on. You can also use the escape key to leave the little tool. Or you can use the right mouse button, click the right mouse button anywhere once to get rid of the little tool. So there you go. That's steering wheels for 3ds Max version 2009.